In so many regards, I'm happy that I didn't get hired to teach history.
That'd be interesting that you would be familiar with that symbology.
So kind of selfishly, I'm like, hey, I want to retain these Latin skills that I learned. It's a lot. It's a lot of memorization.
2 years in the public school system, I came to realize how foundational the family is, and that no social program and no public school hero can replace what's lacking.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Visions and Ventures podcast, brought to you by Bonaventure Bookkeeping and PAX at Bonum Tax. You can check out our website at www.bonabook.xyz. Today we're going to have Mike Swearingen and Erik Huff, Headmaster and Vice Headmaster of Holy Angels Academy. It was a pretty great conversation. These are two guys that I quickly became friends with, and conversation always flows well. I've been looking forward to this one. I hope you enjoy it as well. Well, in addition to eventually talking about Holy Angels, I also just like to talk to you guys about your all's lives and how you got to where you're at with the organization you're with, so Holy Angels. So being the headmaster right now, we'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah.
How'd you get into teaching?
So, a lot of people have great experiences in their own schooling years. And so I can remember several individuals that I would have had, particularly at the high school level. Mm-hmm. I went to an all-boys school here in town, DeSales. And it was really one of the first times that I had a lot of experience with male teachers. I had a couple in elementary school, but they would have been at a younger age. And so I think there's something that was particularly impactful about having male role models when you're a teenager, when you're very close to becoming a man, and it having just a very positive impact on my life. And really, like from that point on, I knew, that I wanted to teach. I took a circuitous route to get there. I remember my dad always saying, when I talked about wanting to teach, him saying well, son, you might want to do something that you can make money in. So, I make a little bit of money, but it was certainly that got me wanting to do it. I did a tour of duty, I like to call it, with the public school system for a couple of years, which completely changed my worldview. I went in, believing so many things about so many different elements of society, and then just a year and a half, 2 years in the public school system, I came to realize how foundational the family is, and that no social program and no public school hero can replace what's lacking if the foundation of the family is not there. And so I was very fortunate to get hired to work at my alma mater, DeSales, where I taught for 7 years. I interviewed to teach history, social studies at DeSales, and they actually hired who is now a really good friend of mine in my place. So we were up against each other, and they hired, the gentleman's name is Tom Cruise. It's spelled Crews. So they hired Tom to take the position, called me on a Friday. It might have been a Tuesday. I think I was just telling Erik the other day that I had to wait over a long weekend to find out, and called on a Tuesday and said, hey, we hired the other person. By that time, I had realized who the other person was because I had known him. He had taught me actually when I was in school. Mm-hmm. I said, well, I know who the other candidate was, and you all certainly made a good hire. I appreciate it. And then I got a call the next day saying, hey, in your interview, you talked about the faith being important to you, and you having spent a lot of time leading retreats and, doing youth ministry. Would you be interested in teaching theology at DeSales High School? And my qualification is, I believe, what Holy Mother Church teaches, and I've read the catechism. I said, absolutely. And so I spent 7 years doing that and loved it. In so many regards, I'm happy that I didn't get hired to teach history, that I was able to teach religion classes to the boys at DeSales. So enjoyed my job, enjoyed my time there, and had my daughters. My wife and I have been blessed with 3 girls, the oldest of which is 11 now. And Audra and I knew where we wanted to send our kids to school. So even when we're looking for our first house, we are doing it within a certain mileage radius of Holy Angels Academy. So we looked out in Prospect, and then we ended up moving into Fern Creek. And, that was on the far edge of how far we wanted to drive, 20, 25 minutes. So this is even before we have children. We know that we want to send our girls to Holy Angels Academy. And it is that connection with our children eventually being born and going to school at Holy Angels that when the former headmaster was retiring, my name would have come up as someone that's involved in Catholic education and has a connection to the school.
That's cool.
So that was a very long answer.
Well, how did you know that you wanted your kids to go to Holy Angels? How did you first?
Yeah, so it came across our radar by it being recognized by the Cardinal Newman Society.
Okay.
And so the Cardinal Newman Society is certainly known for pinpointing authentically, faithfully Catholic colleges and universities. And then they've had a different name for the grade school equivalent throughout the years. Holy Angels was, at one point, when it's coming on my wife's and my radar, they were the top 100 Catholic schools in America. They were on that list. Nice. And so that certainly piqued our interest. We had never heard of Holy Angels before. I mean, I'm born and raised in Louisville and in the Catholic community and had never even heard of the school. And so ended up looking it up as it was the only school that made that top 100 list in the state of Kentucky. That's how it came across the radar.
That's cool, because being a Southern Indiana Catholic, it was like as soon as I started getting plugged into the Louisville Catholic world, it's like, well, one of the largest families in Louisville Catholicism is the Kinneys. Yeah. And basically half the Kinneys or more went to Holy Angels. So it was just immediately like, oh yeah, Holy Angels is one of the good ones.
Yeah.
So it is funny though. There's those bubbles of Louisville Catholics of like, well, these people go here.
Yeah, and I find the same thing if I just simply go to a different mass time on Sunday. I run into so many different people that I never knew went to the same parish.
Totally.
Because we get so locked into our times.
Mm-hmm. Or your pew.
Yes. I try to mix up the pews.
What about you?
So my experience, it's very different than Mike's because I was in the public school system. I'm a convert.
Yeah.
But education in general, I think it's this way. Like Mike said, for every teacher, I had a great sixth grade teacher, Mr. Pecor, who really poured a lot into me. And so the thought would cross my mind quite a bit. And even in anything else I did in life, he was just such a foundational role model to me. And then I graduated high school, took the parachute test to see what you're good at, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are when you're going to college and what career would be best for you. And it kept coming up like early childhood development and education. And as like an 18, 19-year-old guy, I remember just like kind of wadding it up, throwing it in the trash. Like, no, I want to go into business. I want to do business.
I never knew this, by the way.
Yeah. So really put it on the back burner for as long as I could. Converted to the faith. Providentially ended up working out at St. Patrick in parish ministry under Father Jeff Schooner, who also poured a tremendous amount into me while I was there. And I was happy. I was growing. Never thought I would leave there. And I just finished up a bachelor's program where I had taken Latin. And I loved it. And I wanted to do more with it. But 3, 4, 5 months out, I could see that I didn't have the discipline to keep up Latin every day. It's not like I could just study. I had a new baby at home. Couldn't just focus on Latin myself. So kind of selfishly, I'm like, hey, I want to retain these Latin skills that I learned. It's a lot. It's a lot of memorization. And I was losing it quick. And so I thought, hey, if I'd met Mike, we had done Exodus 90 together and became pretty fast friends there. And I'm like, if Mike calls me, I'll ask him if there's any substitute teaching jobs for Latin. And that same day, Mike had never called me. Like, we had spoken in the Exodus app, seen each other in person. Mike called me that day. I'll never remember. I was going down 64, coming onto the Waterson on that big loop where you could see the city in the horizon, past the mall there. And Mike's calling me. And I'm like, I need to take this. So take the call. He's asking if I could sponsor a table for our Sister Elise benefit. And near the end of the call, I'm like, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to throw the Hail Mary out there and say, hey, do you need a substitute Latin teacher? And he said, we might need some full-time help. And then that slowly progressed into, by the following school year, I was dean of students and the Latin teacher. So with my administration background, it really helped. And then the other thing at that point in my life, like being around students and really having their best interests in mind, I'd become a father in that last year. And, there's great teachers out there that aren't parents, but for me in my journey, that really gave me a one up, and I was prepared for it. I'm like, I can be trusted with my own child. I can be trusted to help get other people's children to heaven. Parents being the primary educator and teachers being the primary assistant. I can assist in this way.
So, were you raised Catholic at all?
No, I was raised Southern Baptist.
Oh, so you want to give us a short spell on that?
Yeah. So, coming up, my family, very devout Southern Baptist family. Christ was really central, especially in my formative years. My mama was the secretary at her church, Southside Baptist. Shout out Southside Baptist, great place. In Covington. And I remember I had a real closeness to God even at an early age. I remember my mom coming in to my bedroom and I would be praying next to my bed in the dark and she was like stepping on me. Like, oh, what are you doing in there? And we had a missionary. It was like Lottie Moon missionary. Southern Baptists will know what I'm talking about. That would go to China. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were going to the Middle East a lot more. I remember like being at recess at my public school, like sitting off to the side praying for the missionaries, and like teacher coming over, like, "Hey, is everything okay over here?" I'm like, "Just praying for my missionary," and the teacher being like, "Man, you're a really good kid." And I'm like, "Is that why I don't get second recess every day?" So really had this closeness to God. Was baptized in 2000. I think October 15th, 2000, kind of believer's baptism. And then as I got older, it's really girls. It's like the primary thing. Yeah. Everything started to distract me, pull me away from God. Skateboarding, girls, video games, all of the things in the early 2000s that the culture put out there, and then increasingly secular from there. And by the time I was in college, I was definitely like a secular atheist. High school, I was really into like Eastern religions. And then I had several really personal experiences where I knew that Jesus Christ is God. And then once I had kind of let go of some of the baggage of the past, I want to pursue this truth in the fullest way possible. I remember, so my papa had passed away. This is kind of the biggest turning point for me. It's 2015, and my papa passes away. I'd been in a car accident, and there was a lady who wanted an umbrella. She had one leg in Norwood. I was going to go see my now wife. She was at Xavier University, so she's Catholic. I have that influence, so I'm a little more open to it. There's this one-legged lady in the rain. I wanted to turn around and give her my umbrella. It was a Xavier umbrella. September 11th, 2015. UC and Xavier were going to play a soccer game, and Gabrielle and I were going to go see it. And when I was coming back, a car hit me. And it was a bad wreck. Totaled the car. I still have glass in my hand right now. And
glass in your hand?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I don't know if it's probably kind of visible.
I see it.
So probably need to get that fixed. It's been 11 years.
It's fine.
So yeah, that was just really impactful experience there, and terrible experience. My papa passes away, and I remember I would take him every day I had off work. I would take him Gold Star chili cheese conies. We're in Cincinnati, and the last day that I took him Gold Star chili cheese conies, I remember them being stale with flies landing on them in the kitchen where he just couldn't eat anymore. And that was kind of the end. So flash forward a couple months, and I'm going through, I have a lot of anxiety, depression from the car accident, and just the weight of life and being out on your own as a young person. And I pray to like God I don't believe in. And I'm like, if you're real, and I don't suggest tempting God, but asking God to reveal himself to you, I think is a fair prayer for anyone to have. Like, show yourself to me. And I thought like fire would rain down from the sky or nothing would happen at all. So those were my two options in my own mind. God has other plans. And right after I pray that prayer, I see a hand waving me down in the distance, and it's that one-legged lady. And so I roll down my window. She's like, don't think I'm crazy, but can you take me to Gold Star Chili and get me 2 chili cheese conies? And like I'd been ruminating on those chili cheese conies at that time. Like it was fresh in my mind. When I was getting angry, I was thinking about it. So I'm like, don't think I'm crazy. So I take her to get the chili cheese conies. And at that point, I know it's a personal God. And with all of my experience, learning different theologies in high school and, secular atheism, that, nothing matters, this nihilistic worldview, I knew that like Jesus Christ was the only God that was personal in that way and would know me in that way. So I started exploring different churches. I'm living at my mama's because my papa passed away. I'm driving into Cincinnati, and I would drive by the cathedral in Covington. They've got these beautiful Duveneck murals in the side chapel. So I would go in there and pray because I wanted to see these murals, not knowing that the Blessed Sacrament is in the tabernacle right there. And I'm like, man, I really feel this closeness to Christ here that I don't feel anywhere else. And I think it has to do with this weird Catholic furniture in here that I know nothing about. And I'm like standing up. There's altar rails right there. I think I'm standing up there, like looking, like what is going on here? And then, slowly getting the pieces together and obviously developing a relationship with Our Lady and praying the Rosary really pulled me more and more central to the faith. There was a time when I was debating whether or not I would continue to be Protestant and exploring those theologies. But Christ really drew me into the church.
That's beautiful.
What were there any stumbling blocks?
Yeah, I think like just with my preconceived notions about Our Lady. So like Mary is a huge stumbling block because it is really ingrained in you. There's a lot of things in the Southern Baptist Church that are just so theologically good. And that was one of them that was, kind of negative. There's other things too. Like when I was baptized, I knew that was meaningful. Like I even told you guys just now, like they're like, that's just a symbol, you assenting to the baptism or, accepting Jesus in that moment. That's your salvation. And, we have the baptism by desire. So I think that there's some truth to what they're saying there, but the baptism itself, I knew that when I was baptized that I was changed. And in some profound way, the Eucharist, like that was the only time I remember the pastor getting up there and I'm like, I don't know if I'm jiving with what he's saying in this sermon. Like, he's like, it doesn't really mean what Jesus says it means. And I'm like, I don't know what the truth is here, but like,
That sounds weird.
Something doesn't feel right. And I'm like 7. So I don't have it figured out. But Our Lady and Mary, it was this weird dichotomy of like, I don't believe in God, but like also Catholics worship Mary. And this is some kind of really profound heresy. So I was struggling with that. And there's the Franciscans in Cincinnati. They have the St. Anthony Shrine. And I went there one day because they had an outdoor chapel. I don't have to interact with anyone. And this is a crazy experience too. I lit a candle in front of Our Lady of Guadalupe in there. And I was like, hey, I'm really struggling with this Mary stuff. So I kind of proposed the same thing to Our Lady, like, hey, give me some, not even like a sign, but like, tell me if this is real or something that I should assent to. Like, are you there? Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. And when I left, there's like a brick of grass that's like the size of my chair to yours that I had to walk across to my car. And in that grass, there is a little snake with its head crushed.
Oh my goodness.
Laying on the ground. It's like this big. I took a picture of it. I had this is how out of the loop, out of touch I was. I took a picture of it. I'm like, this could be meaningful in some way. So like, this is a crazy thing.
I was going to say that would be interesting that you would be familiar with that symbology already. So
I had no idea. I was in a gym drinking beer at a church picnic, and I look up, and they have statues of St. Joseph and Mary on either side. And they're in these like weird like cages so the basketballs don't hit them. And it's like Our Lady crushing the snake's head. And I was like, what is that? And I mean, it's the most basic representation of Mary that you could probably find. And I remember sitting there like, okay, like that has to do with my snake thing somehow. So from there, like, I will say this too, like going and praying in Covington on my way to work. When I was staying with my mamaw, I had a lot of struggles at that time. And Our Lady gave me so much consolation. And like I could feel her presence. And I think when I really made the decision to, like, I am definitely going to become Catholic. It's actually on a trip with my wife, and we were in Fatima, Portugal. And I'm like, this is 130% real. I was just so moved awesome. Being there. So, it was a stumbling block, but it was also the biggest thing to pull me into the faith at the same time.
I feel like, I mean, that makes sense with the things that are so specifically Catholic. It's like once you kind of buy in, it's like, well, then now the opposite proposition seems more clearly false, I will say, too, that on praying to the God you don't believe in and receiving a lot of consolation. During my college years, when I wasn't an atheist, but I was agnostic. I wasn't overly anxious per se. Like I would never say I had an anxiety problem, but you still experience anxiety. You're a human being. Sure. And there'd just be evenings in like bed, I'm awake, and I also never struggled with insomnia, but sometimes you just don't fall asleep. And when I'd be awake and be anxious at the same time, despite not believing, I would just do the sign of the cross. Like not over and over, but just once, as if like I remember the internal logic was I was just going to start a prayer and leave it purposely open-ended because it like kind of like just created a sense of peace. That was something I do, even though I was agnostic.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cradle Catholic?
Cradle Catholic. Went to Southern Indiana Holy Family in New Albany. Went to Providence in Clarksville. God bless all our souls over there. That's all I'll say. I'm sure it's a different school, I'm sure, than when I was there. But we could all be a little better, I think, in Southern Indiana.
I wanted to share, Erik's heard this story before, and I'll keep it short. But in the mid-'90s, my grandfather had a terminal illness and was basically confined to his bed the last several months, and had a deathbed conversion, was baptized in his bed, received First Holy Communion in his bed. And I remember him sharing with someone in the family, he's like, I know everything's going to be okay. Well, how do you know that? He's like, well, this really nice woman came to me in a dream, and she put her cool hands on my face and told me everything was going to be fine. And I'm like, well, who is that? Who was the lady? He's like, I don't know who the hell it was. And then I think they got him out. It's hard to believe, but I think they got him out a few days later to get ice cream, which is, I know that if I'm on my deathbed and I'm able to get out one more time, like ice cream's going to be at the top of the list. Oh, yeah. And on the way to get ice cream, he sees a statue of our Blessed Mother, and he's like, there's the lady that was in the dream. So it's just that stuff is crazy. And I've known Erik now for 5 or 6 years. He's a very good friend of mine. That's the first time that I've heard him go through any of that and share that. I know that he has, and I've heard people say, "Man, you got to hear Erik's story." So I enjoyed listening.
Yeah, this is powerful. Well then, so let's tie it back into Holy Angels a little bit. So what do you think at this point in Catholicism within our sphere of our social sphere, what do you think Holy Angels means to Louisville Catholicism? What do you think in your experience, not just necessarily on the website, what sets it apart?
Hey, the website stuff is true. It's not just a sales pitch.
Yeah.
One of the things they put on the website, we had it designed a couple of years ago now. We had gotten feedback from some benefactors that it could use an improvement. And the company that did it for us, they came up with a line where students are taught by people, not machines. I've always loved that. It's not that Holy Angels is anti-technology, but it understands the school understands the dangers of putting a device in a 10-year-old's hands all day. I know as a semi-mature adult how easily distracting my iPhone is. So there's a place and a time for technology, and we've actually been taking strides at our school in order to help with some technological literacy and typing and research for the kids. But I think the quickest thing for me that comes to mind as an answer of what does Holy Angels mean, and Mr. Huff will have, I've heard him share some stories about students who have had dreams about this, so I don't want to steal any thunder, but it's powerful to be in a school community with so many other persons who are trying to raise their family in the same way that you're striving to raise your family. Everybody doesn't agree on everything, and there can be tensions and there can be disagreements, but at the end of the day, everybody at Holy Angels Academy is trying to get their child to heaven. And that's pretty neat to be in a community where that is so universally accepted. And also, again, we're all sinful human beings and we fail at this, but ideally, I know everybody there would say that's their number one priority. And not everybody you ask, hey, what's your number one priority? Not everyone's going to say.
I feel like it was true in action, that they would be hesitant to say anything else.
Yes.
And not because like that's the right answer, but because like interiorly they're like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and the way you just summed it up is good, because I've said that about myself. It's like there's so many things that I intellectually assent to, but then I don't always feel it and I don't always follow through with it, but like I totally believe it.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. That, if I was going to list priorities, my vocation to marriage, I heard a priest say that, in the sacrament of matrimony, your path to heaven has a name. So my path to heaven is named Audra, and her path is named Michael, and that's crazy to wrap our heads around. I am really good, but wrapping the head around that. So there's the priority, and then our children, raising them to the best of our ability with God's grace to be saints.
Just putting Christ in that top spot.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference. So like just piggybacking on what everything Mike just said, just at the daily mass, like
Daily mass is a big deal.
It's so
Is there anyone
powerful.
else that does daily mass for Catholic school here?
As far as I know, there's only 2 schools in the entire state. The other one being St. Augustine back in Covington, 2 blocks away from Southside Baptist Church. Shout out Southside Baptist Church. And then as far as high schools go, I think we're unique that we have daily in the sense that we have daily mass. Students, the high schoolers choosing on Tuesdays and Thursdays to have a study hall or go to daily mass. I came in there little strong, and I'm like, they will go to mass every day. But seeing like, a 17-year-old guy choose to go to mass, choose to pray
On his own volition.
is just so powerful to see. And it's what I say in the tours. When you put Christ in that top spot, it feels like everything just falls in line. It's not easy. It's a cross, and we have, a lot of the same struggles that all schools are faced with in the culture today. But it really makes a world of difference if you're intentionally choosing to put Christ first in everything that you do. It's wonderful to see. It's powerful to see. And, with Holy Angels in a Catholic school in general, the Second Vatican Council, I think it's Gravissimum Educationis.
Yeah.
Like, you have a duty and an obligation to support Catholic schools when able. And it's a real blessing. Like, grace has come from it. Yes, it's a cross. Yes, it's tough. Yes, you have to deal with a bunch of different personalities when you decide to send your kid to a Catholic school. Just like with any other community, people can be messy, and myself very much included. And but it's so rewarding, and there's such a grace there when you do make that decision.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. The daily mass is probably like one of the biggest reasons why I just really can't. I thought for the longest time, like, if I sent my kids somewhere, it'd be like Highlands Latin, because I'm just like, like it checks all these boxes that I'm just like, oh, it'd be so cool and whatever. And then it's just like, but daily mass. I don't know. Like, I can't get myself to daily mass. It's so hard. But I could send my kids there. That sounds like a good idea.
There have been different experiences. The one that Erik mentioned about young men choosing to go to mass when they don't have to is edifying as an adult Catholic to see. And for the first time ever in my life, as he was saying that, and we've mentioned that to people before, it's like I realize that God allows us to do the same thing by not forcing us to love him. It becomes a choice. And so there is some virtue in being empowered to be able to make that choice, having the opportunity to make that choice. And then it's great when you choose to put Christ first. Not that those who are studying for their chemistry test and getting that extra study hall are committing sin in some way.
God wants them to learn their math also.
Exactly. Absolutely. Math facts are important. But one of the things that came to my mind as Erik was talking about the daily mass at school is children as young as kindergarten have reported to me, and it's not because they think it's the right answer, but like, hey, what I always love to ask kids, like, what's your favorite part of the day? And you hear recess and you hear lunch, but then you also hear from kindergartners, like, my favorite part of the day is getting to go to mass. And it's like, wow, even at that young age, probably beneath the age of reason, in some instances, they gravitate towards it, which is beautiful. And even if they don't fully comprehend what's taking place, I mean, none of us can. Simply being present for the graces that are afforded us by being in the presence of the Holy Sacrifice is beautiful.
We've had experiences with.
Well, I don't know how to respond to these things.
We've had students. I've had my first grade teacher at school share with me that a non-Catholic student has come to her and said, when we were praying in the chapel, so this is outside of Mass, so they also have time that they can go and pray in the chapel. A non-Catholic student's like, God showed me how the Holy Spirit comes down and transforms the wine and the bread into the body and blood of Jesus Christ. And it's just convicted about it. And I'm like, man, that's so powerful. If the 4 years that I've spent at Holy Angels, if I didn't achieve anything else, if the school didn't achieve anything else, it would have been worth it for that one instance, in my opinion. So it's so beautiful to see the stories like that. They never get old, they never get tired, but it happens very regularly. And man, if there's anything that can get you through a hard day at work, it's definitely that.
We have great test scores. Our kids get into great 4-year colleges. They score high on the ACT and the SAT. They outperform, the average performances across the state and across the country. But our Super Bowl is, when a student says, "Hey, I want to come into full communion," or "Hey, I want to be baptized and want to become Catholic." It's like, and we're not being dramatic here. Like, that is the biggest deal. It's the most exciting. And again, we have great test scores. We check all those boxes, but the home run, the Super Bowl, the touchdown, are those instances. And one of the things that we see, I think maybe more so in the modern world than we have in times before in the history of the church, is children evangelizing their parents. And so it's hard to not be transformed when you go to daily mass. And it's hard when you're transformed not to be some type of transformative force in your family. Yeah. And so it's really neat to see whole families enter into the church, because of what their kids are learning in 3rd grade at Holy Angels.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
On the comment about supporting Catholic education, I agree with it. Actually, to such a degree that I find it a little wrong-headed. I don't know if that's the right term there, but when some people get so down about our maybe less than perfect, larger Catholic education, milieu, that it can feel very secular. Many of the staff members don't exactly believe what they're expected to believe, et cetera, et cetera. But to the degree that then you get some people who basically want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, really, it would just be better if these schools just went away. And it's like, I don't actually think that. I think we would just be ceding ground further to the secular culture or any other worldview that would happily inform all these people what they should believe. When it's like, well, it's bad now, but it can be reformed. And I'm not saying I or you are required to go into X school and be the change for that school. But over the course of time, in Catholics taking their faith seriously, those different institutions can be reformed. You shouldn't just say, well. And I'd be curious what you think about that.
I think, well, of course. And in all fairness to the other schools, I talked to a lot of the other assistant principals. That's my realm and my level. And the thing that they're striving for most when I talk to them are the same things we're talking about right now.
I believe it.
So they're not, when I have a discussion and it's a group of assistant principals, they're not saying, how do we get these test scores up? That's not the I've never had that conversation. It's, how do we get more of our families that aren't attending Mass on Sunday? How do we get them into the pews on Sunday? How do we get them to see the Eucharist for what it is and how transformative and how powerful that is in their life? So giving, I think another thing is we're in a very cynical culture, and Catholics too can fall into that trap, looking around and being cynical. And I don't want to go as far as say judgmental, but also judgmental.
Cynical.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It can be very cynical.
I don't like being cynical. I actually like to fall more so on the side of like blind optimism.
Yeah. Well, I'd say
I'm a cynical person.
There's a lot to be really, really positive about. And things are better right now than at any other point, I think, in my life. And there's this huge movement of young people. Mm-hmm. It's coming. It's a tidal wave. 3 weeks ago, I was at Seek Conference.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And to see all of these young people that are so on fire for the faith. And these are our teachers. These are our leaders. When St. Carlo Acutis, he appeared to his mom in a dream. We've been talking about a lot of mystical, cool experiences. This has been a great conversation for that reason. And not that we should just focus on that. But when St. Carlo Acutis appeared to his mother after he died, he predicted the birth of his siblings. I think he had twin siblings that were born. either on his birthday, on his death day.
Yeah, one of those two.
Maybe his canonization date. But he also prophesied to his mother that he would be canonized. And once he would be canonized, a generation of saints would follow. And that sounds really cool. And it gives you a lot of optimism. But to see it happen, I was at a mass at Sikh, and I think I was the oldest person in the room. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the priest was younger than I am. And to just see this room filled with devout young people, it was a latecomer's mass. And to see that, like, man, like everything that St. Carlo Acutis said to his mother is coming to fruition. I would have loved for that generation to follow, to be the Carlo Acutis generation, to be my generation, Mike's, your generation of millennials. It looks like it's this Gen Z. It's what's happening, and millennials included, everyone included. But it does seem like there's a youth movement. The Holy Spirit's really moving in people. I just talked to Archbishop Shelton on my podcast a couple months ago about this, and young people are drawn, and this is what Archbishop said, is, they're drawn to the mystery of the liturgy, the mystery of the faith. Like, mystery is, if he had one word to describe it. And the fact that, just knowing where I came from and how I grew up, that young people are gravitating towards mystery at all is a miracle. Like, when I was 23, like maybe like cars, I don't know what I was drawn to, but it sure wasn't mystery. Yeah. So a lot to be optimistic about there. I get to see great young people at school every day. I get to see great young people who come to work for us at Holy Angels. Mm-hmm. I get to see great young people who even apply and maybe don't end up at Holy Angels, but still give me a lot of hope and optimism, and it's such a grace.
Yeah, on the common but things are better than they have been in our whole lives. I would say that's anecdotally true. I mean, if you hear like the types of horror stories you hear about, like devout priests or devout seminarians, it's like you hear horror stories from the 80s and 90s that, like, if they were caught wanting to pray the rosary, that they were like, whoa, what's wrong with you? It's like basic Marian piety. And now, like, it's gotten to the point, in a good sense, that it's like, oh, you want to make the Mass ever more reverent. It's like, okay, I think we've moved the needle. This is good. Like, it's not just like Marian piety. It's like, okay, yeah, we do want to make the Mass more reverent. Not to say that there's, I don't know. I mean, a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on those things, but I think you guys.
And with the decline in faith and all the struggles that the church has faced in our lifetime, there's like two kind of schools of thought that I've been told. Is like the European way of looking at it, specifically the French, is like, why would God let this happen to us? And then like the American way to look at it is like, why did we let this happen? Let's pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We need to work harder. And in both of those instances,
somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's somewhere in between. And the thing that I like always look towards is like the primary protagonist is the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. And like for the last, 8 years of my life, I've tried to evangelize. I've prayed. I've tried to grow in virtue and grow closer to God. And I would hope that in some little way I may have helped. But it's so beautiful to see that like everything that's happening is so far beyond anything I could possibly do. And God is so big and so just and so in control.
We've all had this conversation on the phone or in person. We've actually talked about this, in the not too distant past. So it's something I think about a lot. And this is not a profound idea, but I think it's evident that there is now a greater intentionality to being Catholic than there would have been in years past, where someone could be culturally Catholic and, well, I'm going to go do this because this is going through the motions. So the struggles that Holy Mother Church has had in the last 3 decades, and then COVID and no one getting to go to Mass. I think those have all but reset, that those of us who are practicing the faith are doing so intentionally, which is pretty neat. And then one of the other things that, back to your question, that just was coming to my mind is, it's easy. Are you all guilty of thinking like other families are weird, but everything that you do is completely normal in your family?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also easy to do that when we look at other schools.
But it's like simultaneously both.
Yeah, like exactly.
Other families are weird. I don't know why they get hung up about X, Y, or Z. But then on the flip side, I'm like, but also every other family is like way more like devout and way more organized than me, and I'm just a goofball.
Yeah. It's so like we're susceptible to doing the same thing with our communities, becoming so insular and thinking that only the way that we are doing things is the correct way. Of course, that's not true. And I think of the school, as Erik said earlier, we recognize parents as the primary educators of their children. The home is the domestic church. The school is therefore an extension of the domestic church. And none of our homes are perfect, and we tolerate sin to some certain degree, and we tolerate different sins, different families. And so it's only, it's only natural that there would be, things that we could do better in every community. Mm-hmm. But I just echo what Erik said. It's that I do hear across the diocese, the desire for Christ to be first.
That's awesome.
And so that's edifying. It's very encouraging.
Very edifying. Yeah, that's great to hear.
And once one of us or some of us figure out exactly how to do that perfectly, then we'll put that into a book and we'll share that with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is too is that I've never actually heard anyone say other than that. The only people that I hear, saying otherwise are the people that just are on the outside. And I went to Providence, and I don't know. I wouldn't have necessarily guessed that the staff would say that. I'm not saying that that's the case. That's just not what I would have anticipated. But I hope it is the case, and I believe that it is the case for everyone that you guys have interacted with.
Yeah, I thought about the vocations of the priesthood too. In this same vein, I love our seminarians. I try to get to know them, and nobody's putting on a cassock and a collar now for prestige in our society. Yeah. You're actually getting the opposite. Mm-hmm. And there may have been a time, sometimes I have a romantic view of what the 1950s Catholicism was like, and we've actually all had this conversation too. There may have been a time where, you put on your black jacket and your white collar, and you're recognized by society as something better. But that's certainly not the case now. You're quite liable to get vitriol and people lashing out at you when you're in public. So all the more reason, that intentionality is even the case with those who are discerning vocations to the priesthood and religious life.
To use I don't know if this is Eastern Catholic at all. It probably is. But to use some Eastern Orthodox language, to some degree you'd have to be like a fool for Christ to even consider wanting to be.
Absolutely.
Priest, it seems at this point. Yeah. Well, if I can get you guys here, I assume we're close to your time needing to go, but if I get you a bit longer, could you guys tell us who Sister Elise was and why she founded Holy Angels?
Yeah. So Sister Mary Elise Groves,
OP,
St. Catherine, Dominican. It's really funny.
OP means she's overpowered. She was really awesome.
She was overpowering.
She was very powerful. They were like, we got to stop praying for Sister. She's become too powerful. Order of Preachers, Dominican order. Mm-hmm. And really funny story about that is we've got a great relationship with the Dominicans, the fathers, the priests, Eastern Province.
The First Order.
Yeah, the First Order. And we've been doing our retreats at St. Rose, which is kind of the jumping off point for the Dominicans in the United States, in Springfield. So we take our students down for their high school retreat to St. Rose Priory. And when we got there, Father Pier Giorgio said, "Your school was founded right here." And I was like, "No, it wasn't." And he goes on to say, when 7 or 8 young ladies in the congregation were asked by the pastor to become sisters to meet the needs of the community, and they said yes. And that founded the St. Catherine, the Dominican Sisters of Peace that are there. Just, I know St. Catherine is a different place in Springfield where St. Rose is, but man, you could see the property as a crow flies. It's right there in the backyard. And Sister Mary Elise Groves had been in Catholic education her whole life, and she was given some freedom in the 70s to pursue what she wanted to do. She chose to keep the habit and to teach Catholic education the way that it had been handed on to her. She's a really small lady, I think sub 5 foot, but really big, fiery personality, and she got the school going. The funny thing, I think about the physical location a lot when I think of Sister, where we're at now in Middletown, and it's a great story. She would raise money through bingo, so she had all these bingo bucks, and she went out and without consulting anyone, she looked at the property that we're currently at, and she said, "How much?" And they told her, and she shook the guy's hand and gave him the cash, and they bought the property, and all that sat on the property was a little statue of the infant Jesus of Prague. And they prayed and they prayed and they prayed. And years go by, and we run out of space. We're at 2nd and Magnolia, right across from Magbar there. Same side as 2nd as Magbar. I don't think the school ever got Magbarred, so that's good.
Sister would take visitors to the school, benefactors, to Magbar.
Get a beer.
For lunch and have a beer with them.
Yeah. So, and then they still have the sign. It says Holy Angels Academy above the stage at Magbar to this day. So, cool. Kind of a cool connection there. Punk rock having a little nun down there at Magbar, I think. And so we outgrew the school. She retired. She passed the school on to Mr. Joe Norton, who's Mike's predecessor. And we ran out of room, and we were calling all around the diocese, like, where could we move to? And we would find a space that might work. Call the pastor to make sure that they'd be okay with another school being in their canonical boundaries. And it was Father Jack Schindler, who had just founded St. Patrick. And I love this connection. Like, I have a large connection. I came into the church at St. Patrick. My son was baptized there. I was married there. So St. Patrick is near and dear to my heart. So Father Jack Schindler, the first pastor of St. Patrick, was the one to say, "Come on out. We've got plenty of room out here, and we already own the land." So we prayed on it and reached out to a benefactor, I think by fax, and asked for a crazy amount of money. And, he said, "God will build your school. I'm merely an instrument," was the fax that came through. And we were able to build where we're at now. And Sister Elise lived long enough to break ground.
So how long did you all own that land before you ever built on it?
It was about, I would say probably like 12 to 16 years, somewhere
and even
in there.
then, you guys weren't even taking necessarily that seriously, the idea of building there. You were looking at going to a different school building.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So a lot of providential stuff happened in the bureaucracy to make it happen with, the sewage company and everything else to get us there. But she lived to break ground, and I still have the shovel hanging in my office. Right now, we'll probably get a better place for it.
Yeah.
But I just think, man, how full circle that Sister lived long enough to see the modern day campus develop and to be able to break ground on her vision.
That's really cool.
I've been in education now for a decade and a half, and it's the nicest school facility that I've worked in. And I'm not saying others are terrible, but it's neat. Sometimes when we understand our utter dependence upon God, we embrace poverty, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong with having so much trust in God that you believe that you can also give your students the very best. And so I think it's great that there's a beautiful facility. And that's, I don't know if those of us who have gone to Catholic school from generations before, I can remember where they're not even air conditioned. Personally, I'm old enough to have gone to Catholic school that didn't have air conditioning. And so
they were not that far apart, but I had air conditioning.
well, Aaron went to the fancy Catholic schools
Southern
in town.
Indiana. Yeah.
Southern Indiana kids, yeah.
And so, you have such radical trust in God that you don't only provide for, but you provide the very best. And I think that that's a real blessing.
Yeah, and we pray every day for the spiritual and temporal needs of our parents, but also being able to fulfill the spiritual and the temporal needs of our students at school is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
That's awesome. We can wrap up there if you guys want to.
Yeah,
Excellent. I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation. I know I did. And again, if you guys ever need financial accounting done for your small business, for your nonprofit, we can help. Bonaventure Bookkeeping can, put together your financial statements, invoice your clients, pay your bills, process payroll. We do it all. And if you need any tax help, or if you're a nonprofit, if you need your Form 990 filed, Pax at Bonum Tax can help you do that. Again, our website is www.bonabook.xyz. Thank you so much.